let's not keep the listeners waiting too long then. So that's where this drug fits in. It actually helps you not to eat too much. So, which is its major effect. I mean, it's got loads of effects, and we're actually learning more and more pretty much by the month now. So, I mean, there might be quite a few of our colleagues that's going to learn a bit out of this conversation. So, pretty much in the late 60s, the first peptides were discovered, and it gained a lot of traction in the late 80s. So these peptides have been around for quite a while, but it's a difficult peptide to be around in the body for too long. It degrades quite quickly. And it was actually found in the saliva of one of the reptiles in America. They found the base compound that was actually the first exogenide, the Bayeta, that was the first commercially FDA approved GLP-1.
It's been around since 2005.
Yeah, and didn't work that well until semaglutide came along. So semaglutide we'll talk about now, but that is pretty much for Ozempic, or for our listeners, that's Ozempic. That's the trade.
Wegovy, that we don't really see here.
Yeah, we don't have it here, but Wegovy. And then after that came Tirzepatide, or that we call Mounjaro. So we've had Mounjaro in South Africa since February. And maybe we should then say, so the GLP-1, the name for it is glucagon-like peptide 1 agonist. So what that means for our listeners is GLP-1 is a hormone that gets excreted inside the first part of your small bowel once you eat food. And this is an agonist for that receptor, or meaning it actually stimulates that receptor.
Yeah, so there's many receptors. And it's found all over the body, in the brain, in the heart, in the kidneys, in the lungs, and not just in the gut. And that explains some of the other effects of the drug, other than the weight loss and the glucose control. But mainly, yes, secreted in the gut, which then leads to the gastric emptying to be slower, and a decreased appetite, which is more on a central basis.
And maybe we should then say the GLP-1s is the semaglutide, but then in Mounjaro or Tirzepatide, you've actually got the GIP as well. So
yes,
I'm going to try and say it. So it's glucose-dependent, insulinotropic polypeptide 1. So that's and that's got an extra effect on inside the body, but it's also one of the incretin hormones. Yeah.
Yes, and it's probably why it's a little bit better. We'll talk about the effects just now, but it's probably why it's a little bit better, because it's actually acting on 2 receptors and not just the one, like we see with Ozempic.
Yeah. So when you eat something, it'll go down into your stomach, and then the first part of the duodenum, you will have the hormone excreted. And then that sends signals everywhere. But I think the main drive with this is it busts your hunger, number one. And then we've got the hormones that it also then stimulates or blocks. So we've got insulin and glucagon so it stimulates insulin and blocks glucagon.
Yeah, but insulin is only stimulated when there's glucose around. So that's one of the benefits, is that it doesn't really cause a low blood sugar, due to the fact that it only stimulates insulin secretion when you take food in. With the glucagon, it suppresses the glucagon. So glucagon, basically what it does, it releases the stored glucose in the form of glycogen and into glucose. So it just stops that process a little bit, so that the blood glucose doesn't go up. So it works on 2 sides of the equation there, to stabilize the blood glucose. But also the delayed gastric emptying is also helps so that you don't get that spikes in the glucose with the food stays longer in the stomach. So that also leans a little bit to the glucose control in that sense.
And that's almost like a handbrake on the rest of the system to go slower, and hence you also feel fuller for longer. So,
but on the downside, that's also the reason why people get some of the side effects, like that nausea. Well, nausea might be more central, but that full feeling, the constipation, sometimes a little bit of diarrhea, reflux. It's all due to that delayed emptying from the stomach. And from an anesthetics point of view, also that delayed emptying of the stomach can cause problems with general anesthetics and things like that. So we would like people to be off that drug in that period of time.